everyone! My name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we are doing a 2-month update on my Nexplanon birth control. So if you guys don't know, a couple weeks ago I did a video where I talked about basically everything there is to know about Nexplanon. Why I switched birth controls, the science behind it, studies about it, the procedure, like the whole 9 yards. Anything you guys want to know in detail about the background of Nexplanon is in that video. But today I wanted to share more of my personal experience with it, because at the time I hadn't really been using Nexplanon for that long. I was still at the same time using Nuvaring, which was my old form of birth control, and my thoughts and feelings have definitely been updated now that I have been using it for 2 months and I am no longer also using the Nuvaring. So just for some background, I was using the Nuvaring for a really long time. I really enjoyed Nuvaring. I thought, it was really easy to use. I didn't really have any bad side effects from it. I did have some vaginal dryness that I had to deal with occasionally. And during the first couple of months, I did have some pretty intense mood swings, but other than that, I did really like it, and I was able to use it for years without any kind of issue, and I really enjoyed that. But because of the current state of the world and some other reasons, I wanted to go to a more long-term form of birth control that I didn't have to get necessarily every single month, and I wanted to switch. I wanted to mix things up a little bit. And now that I am in the process of actually using just Nexplanon and not also having my Nuvaring still in, I do think that changes things, because when I was making that last video, I still had Nuvaring in, and so I just feel like my body was overloaded with hormones. Between the newly inserted rod and also having my Nuvaring in, it was a party, okay? I was very irritable. I got mad at anything at the drop of a hat, and it was not a fun time, okay? It was not pleasant, and I felt not even like overly emotional in the way that people stereotype about birth control, where it's like crying all the time and flying off the handle, and also just all the swings of emotions weren't really there. It was more I was on an even keel, but the even keel of just continual feelings were just, I'm mad really easily and I don't want anyone to be around me. But I ended up a couple days after that video, I believe, I took out my Nuvaring, and basically within 2 days of that, I started to feel what I would call back to my baseline. Like, I started to feel less like I didn't know my own emotions, and I started to feel like, okay, this is more normal, this is more what I would expect. And around that same time, I would say 3 days after I took out my Nuvaring, that is when I got my first period. Now, I had been getting periods occasionally using the Nuvaring. I had maybe 1 or 2 times of some maybe really light spotting when I still had the ring in, but for the most part, I would only ever get flow when I had my ring out, and it was very, very light. It was maybe for 2 or 3 days, and after that, it was basically nothing. And so I didn't really know what to expect from my periods, because as I talk about in that other video, when you get Nexplanon, one of the really big side effects that causes people to stop is horrible, unpredictable periods. You get anything from never having a period again to continual bleeding from the day you get it until the day you get it out. And I didn't know where on that I was gonna fall, and so I was like, I'm a little worried, I'm a little nervous. And what I ended up experiencing was basically, I had definitely an initial day of just not even really cramping. I had some stomach pain. Apparently that's a common side effect for people, is they get occasional stomach pain. And I was like, oh, okay, that's the thing that happened. So I got some stomach pain and then also some cramping. And then for the first 2 days, I had what was probably the most intense period I've had since I was a teenager. It wasn't anywhere near what people experience that I've heard from I have a horrible migraine, I can't leave the bed. It wasn't anywhere near that level. It was just very intense compared to what I would normally experience. Like I went through multiple pads or multiple tampons in one day, and I definitely had very pronounced cramping. I had a headache. You know, it was more than what I was used to being on the Nuvaring. But that really only lasted, I would say, like fully that way for 2 days. And then I had like 2 days of lighter flow and then like a day of, you know, kind of just more spotting towards the end. And when it was that heaviest flow, I would say that, you know, it was something that I was just not used to, because my whole life I have had very sparse periods. Even when I was a teenager, until I went on the Nuvaring, I just didn't ever get really regular periods. Like the first couple periods I had, they were very intense. They were like a solid 7 days of just continual, very heavy bleeding. And then as I got a little bit older, I would get a period once every 4 months, once every 6 months. It was very erratic. It was not predictable. And it would typically be very light, or at least lighter than what they, you know, were compared to most other people. And so I didn't know if I was going to be more like that, or if maybe my periods were different because I'm like 10 years older now. So, you know, things change as you get older. And so, again, I just didn't really know what to expect. But again, I would say it was like 2 days of heavier flow, and then 2 days of like kind of moderate light, and then like 1 day of spotting. And I did, after that, I still had some more like cramping and stomach pain, which was kind of unusual, I would say, for a couple of days after that. Or actually what ended up happening is it kind of tapered off. I had some kind of cramping / stomach pain. It went away for a couple of days, and then the cramping and stomach pain came back, and I was like, oh, am I gonna have another period again, like in, you know, 4 days of break? That's not really what I want to have happen. But I didn't have anything. I had some very, very occasional light spotting, maybe a couple of days in and around having that period, but it really wasn't anything. And now, since then, and it's been 2 months, you know, total since I've got the Nexplanon in, I haven't had another period since. I haven't had any cramps. I haven't had any like warning signs of getting near having a period. It really has just been very even keel, and I would say it has been very much like emotionally and also physically in terms of like period or cycle symptoms. I have not really had anything. I don't know if I'm gonna eventually get to a point where I have monthly periods, or if I'm gonna have like a really long time with no periods. I don't really know what the future holds, because Nexplanon is very random, but so far I feel like I got kind of the lucky end of the stick with not really having any intense periods, not bleeding continually, not really having any pain, and I haven't had literally any other symptoms. Like, it just, again, I feel like normal. I feel like baseline. I haven't experienced any, you know, headaches more than usual after that first couple of weeks. I haven't experienced any kind of, you know, bloating, weight gain, you know, just bleeding continually. Again, the really, really big one. I haven't experienced anything. Now, I want to touch on, you know, symptom relief compared to Nuvaring, because I did have vaginal dryness when I was using Nuvaring, and I wouldn't say that's really fully gone away. And because I've been on the Nuvaring for so long, or was on it for so long, I'm not really sure like what my normal vaginal dampness is, like where it falls on a spectrum from like very damp to usually kind of dry. I'm not really sure what my normal is. I would say it's less dry than what I remember from being on just Nuvaring, but I wouldn't say it's like, you know, we're not getting any, you know, wet ass pussy songs or whatever anytime soon over here. Like, I don't really know how to talk about it other than to joke about it, honestly. Like, it's not something I think is really gonna change that much. Maybe it takes a long time to, you know, have that all equal out, and maybe in like 6 months or a year that'll be really different. I just honestly don't really know what to expect in that department. One thing I hadn't really thought about when I was using the Nuvaring, but that now I'm kind of looking back on and going, oh, maybe that really did contribute to that, was bleeding during penetration. So I am not really somebody that does a lot of penetration of any kind, so take that for what you will. But I had noticed that, you know, when I was with partners and if they were penetrating me with fingers or something, I would, regardless of if I left the ring in or took it out, though more often when I did leave the ring in, I would experience some bleeding afterwards and like during the activity. It wasn't enough to really raise any alarm bells. At one point I did talk to a gynecologist about it, and they basically were like, well, just don't do anything as intense as what you're doing was basically what they said. And so I was like, oh, okay. Take their word for it. But there wasn't really a lot of rhyme or reason to it, honestly. Like, sometimes it would be very mild and it would bleed, and other times it would be really intense and it wouldn't. And so I couldn't really figure out what exactly was causing it, and that did, kind of worry me a little bit. But now that I've been on just Nexplanon for a while, since then, I haven't bled at all during any kind of penetration across the board, any level of intensity. And so I do really think it was maybe the Nuvaring that was causing my issues. And I don't really know what it was. I don't know if it was that the ring was like irritating my vaginal lining, if it just made that more vascular and so it was more likely to bleed, or maybe it has something to do with the estrogen in it, because that is part of Nuvaring but not part of Nexplanon. So, there's lots of potential reasons out there, but that is one of the big things that I noticed that I didn't expect to have be different, but was actually very different for me. Now, let's see, what else is there? Oh, okay, there's also this scar on my arm that's like right there. I don't know if you guys can really see it. I'll do like close-up pictures, like comparisons of where it was at the time that I did the last video. So it is a very deep wound that they make, putting the implant, down and then through your arm. So I know that that's going to have a very long healing period. A lot of people don't really like having a visible scar on their arm, and mine is, it definitely is still red, and I have been putting a scar cream on it. I think it's is it Mederma? I'll put a picture of it on screen in case I get this wrong. But I think it's the Mederma, like, nighttime cream or gel or something. I have 4 other scars in the past. I have tried, like, the silicone patches you can get, and those always irritate my skin when I try to, like, actually put them on. And they don't really stay on that well either, so I kind of have given up on those, even though they sound really nice in theory. But I haven't been using the cream for that long, so I haven't really seen a lot of results yet. I think in the morning, and I might just be tricking myself, but I feel like I can kind of see, especially around the center, seeing more like white, like actual skin tone skin instead of like red, still healing wound skin. So I'll do some comparison pictures, and then I'll also see what it looks like in maybe like a year, because I would like to minimize having a scar there if possible. But, it's not really that big of a deal to me, so if it doesn't work out, it'll probably be okay. I might also try some microneedling in that area too after I give the scar cream maybe a couple of months to, do its thing. But, that is definitely still a work in progress. Now, I want to also highlight a couple of things that I remember seeing from my first video about Nexplanon, because I got comments all across the board from people who were like, oh my gosh, I love it, this is the best, or I just got it, I don't really like it, or this ruined my life and I got it out as fast as possible. And definitely if you look on YouTube for videos about really any kind of birth control, I think, but with Nexplanon, most of what you see are these scary stories, because when something just like works and is fine and is good, people aren't like motivated to make a YouTube video about it. It's when something goes really wrong, they get an infection, it's really painful, that's when they usually make a YouTube video. And so there are people who say that the procedure was really painful for them, that it got infected, that their body rejected it. I would say for me, in terms of like rejection, now that the swelling in my arm has gone down more, I can much more easily feel the whole implant rod. There's like the very deepest part I can't really feel that well, but where it's closer to the surface, I can definitely feel it, so I know it's in place, which is nice. And also, if somebody like squeezes my arm here, it is a little bit uncomfortable, if anything, because like mentally I'm like, oh my gosh, what if they squeeze my arm so hard that it like pops out? Like, just to be totally honest. But it's not really that uncomfortable, but definitely other people have different experiences, and I just want to make sure that people know that other people out there do have different stories besides what I have. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I should share or update you guys about as far as this goes. I just think overall I've had like a really positive experience with it. The healing process wasn't that hard. Once I got off my Nuvaring, that I think really made the difference, and it's something you are going to have to deal with if you are currently on the patch, the pill, the ring, you know, if you are doing anything like that, unless you're switching from an IUD to an implant, more or less, you're going to have a week or so where you are using two methods at once, and it is going to be intense emotionally, maybe physically as well, so be prepared. It's not for forever. Maybe wait it out. I would give it at least like a month to see what it's like in terms of maybe a bleeding pattern. And I did hear from someone in the comments as well. I think they said you can take, I think it's a low dose birth control for a month. If you are experiencing like really intense bleeding and you want to correct that, taking a month of just birth control pills with it can help like reset your cycle and help your body like develop a more like natural, like typical cycle. So that might also be something to look into as well and talk to your doctor about if you do start it and you're like, my periods are really bad or they're really irregular and I want to correct them. I really like it otherwise. What can I do? That might be something that you want to look into. So at this point, yes, I would definitely recommend getting the implant if you are thinking about it. I have had what I think is probably like the typical positive experience. I do also like the Nuvaring still. So if you are looking for something you can change at, you know, any month, it's not as invasive. You don't want to have to get numbed up. You don't want something in your arm all the time. You know, I do really still like that as a method. I am not a fan personally of birth control pills because I just, honestly, I know a lot of people that have gotten accidentally pregnant using birth control pills, and I do not want to be part of that club in any way. And with Nexplanon, I feel so confident and so comfortable that I know it's there and it works better than literally anything else other than just never having sex. So I feel really comfortable with it. I feel really good so far, and you know, based on how I feel right now, I'm not feeling like it's gonna be super erratic or unpredictable. I feel like I am in sort of a rhythm with it, which is basically my everyday life is always the same. So I don't want to ramble too much. I'm not used to making videos this short, so I'm like, how do I fill the airtime with extra information? I'm just gonna say, if you want more detailed info, do watch my other video I made a couple weeks ago about it. A link to that will be down below. And also, if you guys do have any other questions about this, I would love to be able to help you guys. Go ahead, leave comments, questions down below with your experience, your concerns, your worries, your thoughts, anything else you want to share or add on. Please do in a comment down below. And also, if you want to make sure to not miss out on any of my other videos and you have not already, please do subscribe. I normally talk about like relationships, asexuality, BDSM, kink, all that kind of stuff. Not really just a birth control channel. I know, super weird, but I do talk about a lot of other topics. You guys do want to check that out, please do. And finally, if you guys did really enjoy this, if you want to support what I do, the best you can do that is with Patreon. A link to that will be down below. If you all do already support over there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you all next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.